Welcome, my name is Russell Salmon. I'm the Director of Public Programs here at the Gallery. We're so excited to have this many people here for the official launch of the 8th issue of Ursula magazine, the poetry issue, in collaboration with the incredible team at the Poetry Project. And yes, please. If you didn't see on your way in, there's a table full of Ursula magazines. Please take one with you. It's an incredible issue, and we'd love for you all to have it with you on your way out. And there's white wine to enjoy. We'll hang out after the reading. And now it is my true pleasure to introduce Randy Kennedy, the editor-in-chief of Ursula magazine, who will give some more thank yous and introductions. Please join me in welcoming Randy.
Thanks to everybody for coming. This is quite a crowd. This is very, very cool. So I'm the editor of the magazine, and we are almost 5 years old now. And we started the magazine to be with the idea of it being a very roomy place, to make it a home for new poetry and for fiction, for art, of course, but also for architecture and music and film and design and sustainability and education, and really also to make it a place where if there's a good piece of writing or a good idea out there that might not have a home elsewhere, it could come here. This is our very first theme issue, and by way of explaining how that came about, I'm going to be a little presumptuous, and I'm going to read a few lines from a poem by one of the great poets here tonight, Waldman. Anne wrote this poem last year in memory of Louis Warsh, who was her friend and partner. And in 1966, correct me, Anne, if I get the facts wrong here. In 1966, in an apartment on St. Mark's Place, Anne and Louis started Angel Hair Press, which was one of the great poetry presses of its day, and made just incredible books and a magazine. And these are just a few lines from a poem that Anne wrote about Louis. A magazine is a paper window, also a car window. Keep opening the curtains. And maybe you need a windshield wiper and music and someone else driving to make a magazine. A bedroom of strange bedfellows. And that line about maybe you need somebody else driving to make a magazine sometimes really, is such a great line. And so for this issue, the person who was up in the front seat driving with us on the long road trip was Nicole Eisenman. And and so I had wanted Nicole to be in the magazine for a long time, and I went to her and I said, would you be the cover of the next issue of the magazine? And she was like, no, sorry, thank you. And she said, but wait, I'll make you a deal. If you make this issue about poetry, and if you commission lots of work from new poets, and if you work with the Poetry Project downtown, then we can put a work on the cover. And I was like, you don't have to twist my arm. Like that's the the things that editors' dreams are made of. So that's how we came to do this issue with the Poetry Project in the East Village on St. Mark's Place downtown, and it's how we came to work for the last few months with the wonderful Kay Gabriel, the poet Kay Gabriel, who was our editorial partner for this issue. And I'm a certified lifelong magazine freak and fanatic, and I think that we've made a keeper. It's like full of poets and artists who are, wonderfully strange bedfellows. And so I want to thank Nicole. I want to thank Kay. I want to thank I think they're here somewhere. I want to thank our designers, Yoon Jae Choi and Ken Meyer, who made like a cover to me that's like, a cover for the ages. And I also want to thank Ursula Hauser, who is the namesake of the magazine, who's here with us tonight, which is a really, really lovely thing. And with that, I will introduce, I believe, Nicole or Kay? Nicole or Kay? And, okay. Thank you.
Do I have something written down? As I can. Oh, did you give me my glasses back? Oh, they're here. Wonderful. Randy, thank you so much. And Russell, thank you for organizing this event. And I just want to throw out some more thank yous. Kay, it's been a pleasure working with you. I'm just so happy to know you and have you in my life. And Kyle Duncan, Dekayan, right? I'm not saying that name right. And I also want to thank Matt Longabuco and Erica Kaufman, who aren't able to be here tonight, but we did a conversation together in the magazine. So that's it. And thank you, Sam, Rec, wherever you are, and Martha, and Anne, thank you. Where are you guys? Thanks. All right.
Hi. No, right. Yeah, because I have this one, so I'm going to talk. Wait, loud. No, this one. Sorry. Okay. Wow. Total bimbo moment. Sorry. Hi, I'm Kay Gabriel, and I work at the Poetry Project. It's an immense pleasure to have collaborated with Nicole and with Randy on this issue. I guess I'm going to say like a couple of things about the project. And a couple things about the issue, and then I'm going to introduce tonight's readers, who are all poets. We're so lucky. Some of whom are in the issue, some of whom are not, and are otherwise beloved writers who we're really lucky to have in the orbit of the Poetry Project. For 56 years, the project has been a home for experimental literature and performance in downtown New York, from our perch on the second floor of St. Mark's Church. And one of the more surprising affinities that I think has characterized the project for a long time is the overlap between poets and painters, poets and artists in general, and maybe poets and painters specifically. And it's a relationship that seems largely characterized by mutual regard shading into envy. In the Frank O'Hara poem, Why I Am Not a Painter, that we stole this event's title from, O'Hara says outright, I think I would rather be a painter, but I am not. Which is interesting. Nearly 20 years later, shortly after the painter Philip Guston died, the poets, and right before a memorial that they were organizing for him at the Poetry Project, the poets Bernadette Mayer and Clark Coolidge exchanged letters with each other, also expressing the same desire to be painters who might invent a painting around the word sardines, instead of a poet splashing words into a strictly verbal medium. And presumably sometimes the envy goes the other way too. But I guess those of you who are painters might compliment us by saying so. That is, except for those lucky enough, like Etel Adnan, I learned this last night, to claim proficiency in both media. And apparently Etel, when she was painting, she called her painting writing, and she painted flat, standing at a desk. So a number of pretty phenomenal artists have characterized the project with their regard and support. That was true when we started, it's true now. When we started, included artists like Alex Katz and George Schneeman and Joe Brainerd, Joe Brainerd's posters for some project events are hanging on that wall next to Nicole's, so that's kind of interesting. And now that list includes Kiki Smith and Adam Pendleton and Glenn Ligon, Juliana Huxtable, Sam McInnes, many of the people who are here, obviously Nicole, many of the people who are here in the audience. So that's like infinity that I think we're really celebrating tonight. I want to just read through the list of poets who we curated for this cover feature, and then I'm going to introduce the readers for tonight. So if you give me 1 second to look at this beautiful brick that we've put together. I'm looking for the table of contents. I am. Okay, great, fabulous. If anyone points it to me, I will be so grateful. But I can also hold you here. I can really hold the tension, it's fine. It's so good. Oh wait, I found, amazing, thank you. Appreciate it. We got it, okay. So the poets in the issue are Bahaar Ahsan, Kimberly Elidio, Joss Barton, C.A. Conrad, John Coletti, Renee Gladman, Erica Kaufman, Shiv Kotecha, Matt Longabuco, Ted Rees, Laurie Weeks, Simone White, and Waldman. And reading tonight, in order, we have Bahaar Ahsan, John Coletti, Mirene Arsanios, Ted Rees, Benjamin Krusling, Laurie Weeks, Mohammed, Zenia, Siddiq, Yusef, Ibrahim, and Waldman. So I think, so the poets are just going to read in that order. You guys are going to read for 5 minutes each. And I think after, I'm not going to introduce you between you all. You can just kind of pass it off and hand the mic over. And meanwhile, thank you, Randy and Russell and Rachel Adler as well at Hauser. Thanks to, they also filmed this kind of incredible video of us, of me and Anne talking at the project that's going to launch soon. So thanks to the folks who did that. Thank you to my colleague Laura Henriksen, who's here tonight. And thank you, Nicole. And I think we'll get started. Cheers. Please welcome Bahaar Ahsan.
Hold this, maybe? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Hauser Wirth. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Laura. This is so nice. I'll try to be quick. There's so many people reading. This first thing I'm going to read starts with some lines from Norma Cole, who I guess kind of in adherence to the theme is I think, one of the best living poets we have, and also is a really remarkable painter. So the lines from Norma are, is it a chair or a piece of roast beef? Night never seems nothing. Greensinger put forth, full-bodied stalwart, speaking from my psychotic core, the most endearing thing. 2 channels wherein the conjuring runs at a slight delay. Less so the sense of a zinger, one mechanism to put forth, to retract. Seed shards and other shards, shards of doing, but at which level of organization? Stanzaic procedure gives way to erotic circuit, concordance sprang from her heart sense. Stalwart notion redoubling consternation, it was once experienced as a shift, now just grafting one thing onto purple. Rarefied distension, subsuming something into the frame, that's my kind of contrition, baby. Reared madrigal, danced bifocal, metastanzaic sustenance. Will you bring it to the fore? Will you bring it to the fore? Speaking of my psychotic core, the most rewarding thing. And then I'll just read some of these Orphic measures. I'm going to put this back. I don't like holding this. Okay, cute. I'm just going to trust that you can hear me. It can only be unbound to the extent that it is measured. It is a dizzying transferential constellation. Avatars in my dream and avatars in the park, avatars of me and of what I am not sure. The domain of experience crumbles under the weight of Philip Whelan's Dharma inheritance. I've lost sight of the so-called drive, overcome and governed by the enlivening present, the swagger that appears with a kiss on the forehead. Blockage is an asset in a system of injuring inconsistencies. Competing desires competing to somatize, but also to transmute. The cessation of play, the cessation of thought, the concentric is. Reduced capacity for, induced by rot. Scaffold activated at every point of contact. To rush, to relish. My surrender to mist, less noble than adaptive. A pair of sizable low-hanging balls becomes a problem only when another's subjectivity is underdeveloped. The form of the thing conceals the root of the thing, beholding an egret with a near clinical rigor, bathing in thickened repetition by which I am transfigured. Squishy transference, the meat of it all. Amy tells me that the intervention was to place her in the symbolic. That's why they got her a library card. Red tulip saturated with connotation cannot function as a drain. An image composed of several elements should be understood as such. Anti-cathexis, sand is a variable. Sand is always a variable. A variable is not a compulsion, but neither is it experience. Only experience is experience, and only a library card grants one entry into the scaffold. I incant and I observe. I build a drain for the soulless part of the psyche. To lose sight of the libidinal, in this case, might serve us well. I devised a game, lower the threshold until reciprocity becomes moot. The mechanics of such a thing were beyond me. Slurp it up until it's taut, then lop it off intracommunally. Gazing for something capacious, her sights were set. Individually, each clinician was surprised by the crispness of her affect. Collectively, it was precisely what they had expected. Her state of being opens itself to me and I to it. The bidirectional song and dance, slurping up the silly swarm, brackets impede eroticism. A poet and a nurse practitioner walk into a bar. What for others is sublimated, for me is not. Which is more deeply fucked, meeting urgency with urgency or meeting urgency with stoicism? Stoicism can be erotic, but so can a boot to the groin. Repetition thickens into churning. Constantly speaking about it in terms of geography, things at the center are placeless and floaty. One element is the girl, another is the tulip. Ekphrastic seeds don't birth, but they gestate. Endearment induced by the presence of geese. We ought to make music in spite of the sentence. The temporary merging of psychic lives this way becomes possible. None of you will ever know what I learned from Bob Perlman, and neither will I. We stumble over each other because we lack curiosity, and the knot remains a knot because we lack curiosity. Gestation is endless until freed by repetition. Silly people will always be preoccupied by ambivalence. The bad element and the good element, the external element and the internal one. The pleasure of the back and forth isn't novel, but it hasn't yet been harvested, not in this relation at least. The goslings were birthed and raised next to Stowe Lake. Noah comes over for dinner, and a vase of chrysanthemums, a vase of buttercups becomes the mediating variable. Reframed in terms of geography, you wouldn't want to live in a spa. You block the thing, you simply block it. You put your body in its path and do what needs to be done. You absorb what you're meant to absorb, and it jiggles where it's supposed to, but the function is remarkably simple. It's simply about blockage. Producing distance between self and system is a relational habit. It is also helpful. If undiscerning, you become beholden to a quince branch, spryly scurrying towards equanimity. The knot remains intact until curiosity pushes through, producing a dehiscence. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Bahaar, I think this is yours. Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much for putting this together. This is completely overwhelming. Bahaar, amazing as always. I'm going to read some short poems and some medium poems and see what happens. So, off and on. What moon is May 17? Dark the night meters. Clouds like abscesses. Away, cover it. That poetry is psychic is no new concept, though it continues to surprise me. Cypress and cactus. When I'm around you, the stars can't see. I don't love in the ocean. I love in the head chair and want to become small. This one's in Ursula. It's after a painting by my best friend Zach Wallard, so Sky Advising. Poplars, pyrite flecked, manure, blueberries in fields and arcs. No need to build that stories high, doll, tartrues, watering can to get to the place of your need. Safely lit candles, dozens of them. Fence abalone, hardware paint, beyond sunlight, in 3 parts. Out of my face, Talon vinyl, fluoride, Sprite harbor foam, dressing a French fry in harmonics. Morning sax for the bottlefish, all marinas swell moon forms, glass cleanser, patience. The steady, relaxed smell of cover stock. Try answers toward me. Leave a lake. High knees. After May snow, this young, brilliant sycamore, I frighten. The melody of its sun. Work the stalk carefully. Count out. Let pass, and warm water run. Soft and firm bruises, as if my heart captured all its details and methods once, uncovered what had been covered up. I miss slow dancing. I want to stay and dance awkwardly, to fall alone. Is Jay Grabowski here? Okay. So during COVID, a lot of things happen, right? We don't all have to talk about them, but sometimes your friend sends you a book just composed of drawings, just drawing after drawing after drawing. And when there was that much disconnection, somebody doing that was super important, and I think I was a couple people you sent these to, and I responded to every page. And this is the other one in Ursula. Airmail. Now the animals do not compete. They walk, crawl, or slither together, pulling one head through another head's open torso in unseen empty chairs. Aslan throws jacks at Orion's mutt, twisting seat belts into gardening claws, adjusting socks with your sock hand, returning from human form. Hold the goblet broadly, awkwardly, cautioning, then making out with your hand inside your hand. Gloved seagulls ink on carnival hares, riding in low plane shapes. Toward frosty mountains, we bridge in an M and hold hands. Cologne from neck up, yielding to the limited liability of a couple hammers picking through the easy minerals. Now let us toast to the choicest of empty-tip gems. Past all pride, on a bubble, a blushing portrait of keys in the sky. Eels snogging, micro, ignorant, and happy. Neighborhoods, now states apart, grown awkward on a trapeze. In that region of bat mind between us. And then just one last small poem. Curfew. Mars and Venus on a ledge, tracking in red clay, 1:45 a.m., stars equinox in the shower, clean off, fall down the fire escape, across white paint, glass. All pain sounds like labor without aid. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm going to keep this here as well. Okay. Hi, everyone. It's such an honor to be here and be part of this incredible event. I don't write poems, but I love poets, and I will read about poetry and money tonight. So this piece is called An Artistic Freedom. and is part of a manuscript called The Other Side of Freedom. Can everyone hear me, even through the mask? Okay. So, I began this piece with a prompt that was given to me in a poetry workshop about money and poetry. I forgot the nature of the prompt, and I don't write poetry, but I have a rich friend who is a poet. I like spending time with her because she thinks about language at the most unexpected hours of the day, when a movie is about to begin, or at the supermarket while waiting for the cashier to hand her a receipt she will instantly crumple. Late at night, words like mastic or helix come to her in an insomniac blur as she's finally falling asleep. I know this because my friend and I used to sleep together before she gradually friend-zoned me, replacing any shred of sexual tension with unambiguous camaraderie. In her poems, my friend writes about generational trauma whose cycle she breaks with forms of human and non-human kinship. When we talk, I stand close to her face in the hopes that my cheeks can absorb the full spectrum of her radiance. Nothing can deter my friend's face from glowing, not the disastrous warming of the planet, deforestation of the earth, never-ending or new wars. Her beauty remains unfazed, powered by an alien light. Yesterday, my friend called me to inform me that her son was entering a revolution. Some gates were about to be set open, and she's preparing herself for a transformation. She believes in the wisdom of ancient healing traditions, examines menstrual blood for its thickness and density, structured her sex life around the gravitational pull of the moon. She believes that being rich is an illness self-care can cure. When she calls her doctor's office in Manhattan, they call her back immediately. My therapist, who is currently a therapist in training, asked me why I'm convinced that I can't get the things that I want, whereas others can. She's worried that I'm not listening to my body, that I've segregated my most profound intuitions from my conscious mind, demoting them to sleep somewhere far and out of reach. She blames my lack of self-worth on my relationship with my mother, who she believes, I believe, only loved me under certain conditions. One of my pandemic purchases is a depuffing face roller that cost $28. While I roll the green stone over my cheeks and massage the dark circles under my eyes, I rationalize my existential discomfort by extending it to larger structures. If the shitty MTA invested in ramps so that disabled people and parents with strollers wouldn't have to risk their lives going up and down its filthy stairs, if healthcare wasn't a huge fucking problem, maybe people would have enough time to fall in love with their own faces. If my mother had felt loved as a child, her love for me would have been anchored in the certainty of her own value. My therapist thinks that I cannot get the things that I want because I don't think that I truly deserve them, whereas I believe that I can't get the things that I want because I can't afford them. But both might be true. I have come to believe that what we believe we are worthy of may align with our material reality. Let me rephrase this as a question. Does believing that we're deserving of love also means we trust we are deserving of money? I talked to my friend about the strange convergence. Can she see it foreshadowed in the stars? I want someone to teach me how to practice love within a system in which the success of some, is predicated on the failures of most. I want to learn how to love someone who has gotten what I wanted. There is enough love for everyone, my therapist reminds me. It's all already here, can't you see it? With expats, we discuss organizing a fundraiser to purchase sanitary pads and diapers to send back to Beirut. We share tweets about the economic meltdown, financial crash, complete dissolution of life as we knew it, which was shitty anyways. Those returning to the country filled their suitcases with various medications, vitamin C, heart medicine, antibiotics. The streets of the city recede into absolute darkness. Bank accounts display fictional numbers. The universal abstraction upholding the illusion of value is no longer operative. The country, its social relations, refugee camps, food supply chain is imploding. Life is rationed in increasingly smaller portions. Every day there is less of it than the day before. I asked my therapist whether she thinks that part of the inheritance my father left me and a loss to my country's bankruptcy is the outcome of my lack of self-worth, or if any expression of wealth is confusing because ownership is inherently flawed. Before the session ends, I pay her $30 and wonder why she hasn't increased her fee now that she is a licensed therapist. Does she think that she isn't worth it? I took the workshop on poetry and money in search of literary forms that would allow me to express in language the inherent overlap between our psychic sense of self-worth and an economic system designed to produce scarcity. On IG, someone posts on abolishing the police and dismantling the settler colonial state, followed by another post where they review cat backpacks for their breedability. Cats, too, need to survive in a police state, but sometimes when opposites can't be reconciled or exist in a soft continuum, it is one or the other. So which side are you on? My initial intention was to write this as a poem, using line breaks and gaps to capture my perennial ambivalence towards money, while jolting readers out of the safety of self-contained paragraphs. Am I to blame for writing in sentences, for mourning an inheritance that was never mine in the first place? Tonight, my friend and I make plans to chart the night sky for defunct constellations, overlapping or splintered star patterns with obsolete narrative currencies my friend wants to put into language. My friend is a good poet because she works hard on her craft. Some might say that she works hard on her craft because she's a rich poet, not a good one, but I don't believe this to be true. I believe my friend is a skillful poet because she relies on the sincerity of artifice to craft a linguistic experience where something once unseen is revealed. She believes in the value of her art. Does my friend believe in her own value because she is rich, or did she learn to value herself despite of her wealth? As we're about to lay down on the hardwood floor of her rooftop deck, she explains that in ancient Egypt, women were waged to cry at funerals, that rather than belittling the experience of night or of death, payment acknowledges work that, precisely because compensated, remains incommensurable. Call for the wailing women to come, send for the most skillful of them. To be a poet, she says, is to be paid to cry for others. Thank you.
What an honor to be here among all these wonderful people. Thanks to everyone who put all this together. It's a real pleasure. I'm going to start off with the poem that's in Ursula and then read some stuff that the prompt actually kind of got me writing. So I just started kind of writing from the constraints that I gave myself for the Ursula piece. So the little dulling edge. I kind of don't like microphones. Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay. Smoothly constructing what? The attempt to make freedom comprehensible, magnifying this most tender pink bile, just about so long, pretending my lips are pennies. Mightn't work gazing into his bobbers. How many fathoms is the pits then? I work my index, sigh as petals skirmish thus around his cheek, defying aesthetic standards of conformity, meaning skinny, punch, or rested in green terror. The young painter knew of its beams' first interruptions along this spin. Along the dread creek we splash into again, ever hollow we hear once and shake. Footprints in the dew, overshot, this rancid loom cannot spoil, the weft more so than present. Pretty blossoms come out and smile. At the husk in the shallows, his and his cold hand on shore. The soot of the soft coal, the shadows panting in this storm. My roughened palms figure which goes to pieces to thumb between braided hemp rope and supple ostentation, that what is his skin to be called star with many a point. We shut the victory procession, sun fast no longer, hearts and gizzards fall in a dozen ways that were planned. With the demise of nuclear sex, and the suspicion that our cheering could be a scene crowding the next days. Hint of down on cheek on his stomach. Whereas deep in the woods in a box. Whereas not in the woods in a box. Something opaque. Fronds that sing. Obstinacy as cool set, brothered into veins, almost wooden quality. A drum, the fingers tap, there his throat. Dawn's sublimation rattle, laps his sigh, his inner pie. I am hesitant, the coasts encircle my ribcage rise. The aloof surplus denotes where his breeze would mandolin as I swear to his sour. What vinegar escapes there? His palms, his thigh touch the wall. His shirt wrote up the fruit of abstraction, hallucinating gourd at the centrum, or sweat in Vienna. And so it goes, water from the branch, crudest inquiries, removing his pith, a heated shudder, boy's cologne, a spill of vodka, barzo, and what is temporal, his eyes. Turn a little groove in the end of sheets. The agreement where the blue plaza hums. We smoked hash and curled into that prospect. This is my last one. Thank you again. Now to be cracked open, like the golden fragment of his skull, a lazy rhythm filling his mouth swampy, then my pocket, previously noted. Gospel curved my spine, awake in tin, in hacks God knows where, my sad dream living on hair, sprouting the mole beneath his nip, 3/4 of an inch. There's no echo. Wheels lack memory, and I finger around the piece in attempts to smooth its edges. Slow wind and no sun. So foundered to prone, yeah, he sawed out.
Hi. I am having a lot of problems this week, so I'm going to read some poems about problems. Radiation, underground and in the sky. They told my cousin go to jail. He didn't want to go. He felt downright messianic or normal on this perfect day of disease. We pulled up on him at the dice game and cheesed, last pick for now, last kiss. The steps up to heaven were sweating with ideas about the arrangement of society. Some mean lives in this hot century of sugar and corn, this blue century of secluded aspirations. I was unwell, obviously wrong, bringing butter for the baby, music for the baby. And my brother glowered in the fog, darkened in the fog. Jail, I said, and he said, good. His face was so grim, such an individual citizen. The furrow of his face overtook the sweetness of his face. I'd seen it once before. He looked like a diamond being beaten, a child, a diamond, beating. Presence is beating and good, gold ringing, shining. A single cloud sits with a low hum like an eraser. The law of society isn't actually jungle law we all observe. The person shoved down the Union Square stairs, the people close enough to help and do. It's grayer but more fungible, a patch of blue, reciprocity, ascendance. Just had this minor, traitorous nostalgia for university. Evil, spiritually stunted, but the library was closer. I was my wish, it was my time. Who could ever take it so far, living? Me, no. Then she said, I think we have fewer options than we thought. Then I wrote, the earth shines in the night sky, otherwise it's gray, reluctant, silent, unreal, unexaggerated, dreaming now, just waiting. Then I opened the window to fire, running in the street. Considering how aggressive living is, we don't live in the same world at all. Demoned up all the time, it's a game of dermal flickering. It's the age of the plantation and rare earth mineral. For example, I see my silhouette in the condo window, think, I'm no cardiovascular system surviving my way along. I'm not vast as summer sun, grinded, upright, not ill, diverted, extra. I'm a low hum, I'm in love. I'm a bit of psychic pressure. I'm cheese, dope, and juice. Then the night swings shut like the idea of glamour. In the end, I feel sad, but not just. It contributes in a singularly emphatic way to the ideological function of art. Look, such pleasure when a death, completely awash with cars moaning along. Look, such a black happening. People have whole degrees of attachment error. Before I was so removed from the bookstore, was going to say something, was winding up to say something about the nerve and field of meaning of this violent rehearsal, its implications for life on earth. Sort of said it, sort of meant the cool afternoon and its brutal interests, something in the work boots of the culture dispenser, and I'm returning the books to your shelves. I come here every day, you know, and never find pleasure. We've got to do something to save the children. Seriously. The reel has that bad color now. My surprise was fluid, so bright when I discovered it. The sun gushed roughly down my forehead, lips, etc. The red flags cracked the black of the air. I thought kids in this climate, with these ordinances, these bullets flying. But my blinds are shut. When attachment is stunned by punishment, the blinds just close themselves. My work in its troubled way is strewn about the room, and I hear This Is America from the apartment next door. My world is so ugly, but I'm beginning to like it as I look forward to its changing soon. Ours too, James confirms, is an age of propaganda. In my various educations, I had the shape of an idea about myself, without money, hostile to confession, doomed to the shallow knowledge of the narcotized, granite, arms up, elbows out, a flame asphyxiated, rageful, colored, on the near side of war and domination, but when I said my life was ugly, I was wrong for what I meant by it. There's no place for that kind of confirmation. I was scrolling when I was thinking, words were hammering, then my mind was filled by the light on my face, the blue light, the black lightning. This year I'm thinking of wearing brighter colors. I'm a fun person. Imagine. Demanding, imagine, ever so sprayed by circumstance. So blood and carbon, so in my troubled way, superstitious, diseased. I learned that when it comes to writing poems, material isn't enough, or dreams. Thanks.
something? Hi. This is so exciting. I just I got off a plane from Idaho, where my mother lives. And speaking of saving the children, our local congressman put out a children's book called Why Everyone Should Have an AR-15. It's like all these little kooky figures on the, okay. So when I got off the plane at JFK, and now I'm here with my tribe and all these beautiful minds, and I could not be more thrilled, and thank you, Kay. And I don't have poems or anything in the magazine. I have some of my paradigm-shattering art is available there for everyone. So I'm just going to read a fragment from a story called Worms Make Heaven. Tell me if I start popping and, you know. I sliced through a worm with a shovel while gardening, but I didn't cut it completely in half. A thin, whitish pink strand connected the two writhing segments of its body. Oh, fuck, little dude, I'm so sorry, I shouted. Shit. I tried to shut it down, but waves of desperation and grief rolled through my chest for days. Constantly and without warning, the worm's red panic burst through the door to kick me in the chest, like she was running film clips under my ribs of her body thrashing and corkscrewing frenetically on the soil, arching in agony. There was a shovel, and she was coiled into O silhouettes and sailor knot contortions, a tiny shape-shifting pretzel of agony, an agony pretzel, triggering a reciprocal hailstorm of unknowable objects in my chest, a suggestion of shapes flying around in there too, sensations without definition or name, broadly categorized as emotions or feelings or something, and invisible except for a slight crease here, a wrinkle there, a ripple, a shimmer. Certain things have learned to cloak themselves for the good of everyone. It's just better that way. But then the worm would appear and explode like fireworks, and uncontrollably, oh my God, fuck, would just slide out of my mouth. I wish I didn't loathe the word moan so much, because that's what I was doing, and I mean all the time. Anywhere, really, except mostly in public. I'd be compulsively bonding with whatever stranger I had to interact with, which means a cashier. What else even is there? Or is that just me with the problem? Compulsively bonding, stressing the hapless victim with nervous codependent empathy type jokes about the horror of packing my bags, which very occasionally made them kind of laugh. Sometimes it was actually totally okay for real, and we'd both be laughing, this genius cashier and I, when suddenly what I'd done to the worm would punch me straight in the solar plexus, as though a blacksmith had swung at me with a sledgehammer, successfully. There are less stars in the universe than the times in retail situations where I moaned, oh, fuck me, just fuck me, and kind of collapsed onto the conveyor belt. Or just put my head down into my shopping cart, which really, that one confuses everyone. Worms can regenerate both their heads and their tails, but so what? There will always be that moment where I severed the worm, and it suffered. Oh God, I'm sorry, I would say to the alarmed cashier. I just remembered something terrible. Sorry, God, that's all you need, another freak to brighten your day. In these spirals, no one was safe. I would drag everyone under with me as I frantically said anything to make everything be okay, to cleanse and erase the space between me and the cashier. This field filled with transparent, teeming thought form bedlam. That made me panicky. What drove this babble? What scenario was playing out, broadcasting from me? I better sit down because my legs are, sorry, just excitement. Second arrow of suffering on top of the worm punch. What feeling was this? Thank you, Kay. You could say desperation, but what even is that? What written image instantly produces the same sensation of having severed a worm, other than the phrase, I severed a worm? Walking, I'd ruminate. What were the words for this anguish and grief? Blackbirds flapped up in my mind's tiny sky. I focused on my chest. Flock of shrapnel. Was that approximate to the sensation remaining after the first body blow of the weightless image? The twisting red segments and connecting nerve thread? Was it a semi-accurate measure of the velocity, shape, density, floatiness, scrabbling, and what other criteria are there? On YouTube, I learned that the ancient Egyptians were so finely tuned, they had 360 senses defined, as opposed to 5. I need to know what these are. Infinite potentials, called creatures, live in the space of my heart. Tiny bats hanging row upon row. It's okay, I love bats, that's not my point. But what does it look like? Are there words fine enough to produce the same sensation of suffering? Something else, but the same? This is Virginia Woolf meets 7-Eleven reformed meth head meets Ingmar Bergman territory. Moment of the worm, nosing sweetly along in the April dirt while the peepers sing by the trilling creek, the worm rippling ahead, euphoric in the vibration of soil harmonics against her skin, singing along while the peepers cling and sway on the reeds near the creek that runs ticklish and giggling over the rock-spangled green gold in the light slanting through Sweet Flag, and overhead the goldfinches flash and swirl and everyone's singing. Fuck. I was born with Mars in Cancer, a bad position. Oh, fuck, like a curse, I said to Zippy, who was doing my chart. No, she said, it's like you don't have conscious access to your reactions and motivations. They're down there sucking your energy like oxygen, and then sometimes you'll just explode without warning. Meaning the flamboyant planets not zooming through the solar system in overdrive, places to go, things to do, people to meet, picking up speed from its rogue adventurings, but instead pissed to find itself tumbling from its own orbit repeatedly due to an oscillating sense of direction or wobbly axis, spun into freefall by its wavering response to some random perturbation, losing plot and philosophy without warning or going totally retrograde time after time, just as it hits the zone, catches the flow, really starts to cruise. Sideswipe to wobbly standstill, vacillating between rage and apology by whatever ridiculous thing. The inconsequential vibe, say, from a passing fleck of space trash, before plummeting, an orange ball bearing screaming down from the ether, thermonuclear with rage at its brutal plunge yet again, God damn it, toward a pool of scuttling, indecisive crabs. That's weird, you might remark to your companion on the beach, pointing toward a nectarine glow beneath the waves, right before they erupt with a mega missile of steam that concusses you both back into the parking lot. Whoever you are. Sprawled out on the hot asphalt, ears ringing, you watch the massive column blasting through the ocean into the stratosphere. And that's me. One more vaporized bit of intention, desire, optimism, jetting off through the ozone. Kind of losing track of the metaphor, but the correct answer is not flock of shrapnel. I'm getting there. Okay, Mars in Cancer, not the greatest, but also I'm an Aries, ruled by Mars, this special need Mars. Jesus, I said, what valuable lesson do I have to learn from the school principal before the school principal of the universe lets me get past this? I'm not sure, replied Zippy, my best friend and astrology genius. It's some karmic thing to do with your dad, probably. I was wearing a beautiful blue plaid button-down shirt, tapered, my favorite shirt from eBay, and there was a tear in the back from having been dragged down Main Street one day by my girlfriend's car, from which I jumped because it was like she was trying to kill me with the things she said. I only held on to the door handle a second or two. Somehow I must have known I'd be okay, scraping along the asphalt next to the tire. Everyone saw, but I just twisted away from the car, stood up, and walked off into an alley, my body screaming with adrenaline. Then, as always, I got amnesia. It happens all the time. One day I picked up the shirt and said, "How'd this hole get here?" "You jumped out of the car, remember?" my girlfriend said. "God damn it, Zippy, help me, you fuckhead," I cried. "I'm deeply in love with you, but fuck my dad, A, and B, I'm sick of driving this piece of shit car called my life that blows up every 10 seconds, even though I'm only going 1 fucking mile an hour." Zippy laughed. Her real name is Missy, but now she's Zippy due to an autocorrect mistake while texting. Which fits, because her real name is Melissa, which means honeybee in Greek or something, and bees, Zippy. Do I even need to explain? "Let me think about it," Zippy said. I stood up. "You're kind of a charlatan," I said. "I want to kiss Zippy, but I'm frightened because I'm so shut down." "Don't you want another glass of wine or something?" I said. "You need to get a little drunker so I can relax." Wait, okay. It's April, there's been rain, and just beneath the surface, the soil's delirious with worms nosing about or unhappily ambushed by me, deep within clay balls as deeply impacted as cement. The chunks are so hard and heavy, I've mistaken them for concrete and broken them apart with a hammer, only to find worms inside, impossibly inhabiting a solid, moving slowly from our vantage point. But what does slow mean in a worm's space-time continuum, coordinates? Really, they're undulating like eels through water, radio waves through bone, neutrinos through the body of a planet, as those salamanders scamper and flip inside granite blocks, and stingrays glide through the thick lead walls shielding underground government complexes. Somehow their soft, long bodies penetrate and traverse the rock, and traverse this rock. I envision them in a slow float, their molecules spreading into transparency, invisible membranes just sliding through the dense atoms of soil and aerating it, I guess. Who knows if they have lips? I'm gonna make the call, they've got lips. Humming lips, vibrating so subtly, clouds breathing on your skin, that clay becomes fluffiness. It's alchemy, allowing moisture and nutrients to perfuse the ground deeply rather than evaporate or wash away, seeping down to the tendrils of, say, embryonic yellow and scarlet zinnias waiting to drink and spiral up through the ground into the golden, green, and blue world to blossom into landing sites for the tickling filaments of butterflies and bees. Butterflies love zinnias, and it's totally mutual. Vermilion zinnias or zinnias of any color spiraling up toward the sky. It's so easy to drink and spiral up to those myriad blues up there like nothing. It's so easy. We're playing. It's heaven. Worms make heaven. People say things like, worms don't feel pain. What? How could you even know that? What people should always say instead is, oh my God, worms, thank you. Jesus fucking Christ, thank you, worms. Thank you for heaven. Worms can regenerate both their heads and their tails, but meanwhile, their agony's unmistakable. Growing up, before I learned to fly fish, I pushed fish hooks through live night crawlers as bait. Oh, worms don't feel pain, said Dad. He said that about trout, too, as he taught us to bang their heads on the edge of the boat or stab a knife into their brains. I believed him until I was 14, and since then I haven't been able to fish. Doctors used to operate on newborn babies without anesthesia because they knew babies don't feel pain. Children who don't feel pain chew their tongues off, rest their hands on burning stoves, gouge out their eyeballs, jump off roofs, then run around on broken legs. How could anything living not feel pain and remain alive? Okay.
Hi. I'm Mohammed. Hi. I'm gonna read some poems. So let's do this. I like what girls like what boys like. Fathers devastated that the veil doesn't cover the legs of the valley, or that the hearts of Midwest cattle are whispered to be lost as the sky dead drops oblivion. As soybeans lay pod seeds under the wrinkle of atmospheric grandfathers frighten a black man like lightning will often shake hands with the same stranger twice. Like I just want to enjoy the kindness of water. Like, you know what? I deserve a slow retreat from men, from myself, from hyperbolic madness and the sheepish screams emitted from the sacrificial sons of wildflowers. Like if everything grows gray glum stars, why can't I get drunk? Weather vanes rarely point true north, and like a bad metaphor, here I am at 34, broke teeth and no money. Like the skirmishers composed of monuments celebrating indignity, I am a series of small disasters and minefields on top of one another like Moloch in a white coat. I come bearing bad news or useless gifts. Suicidal uncles eat cake in the bald drawing rooms of upstate dive balls. They dribble the anointed oracle around the circumference of traumatic familial vacations, but there are no therapists to heal things here, so we're left open-faced like a grave, like maybe I've gone so mad with the pain of others that I dried up inside. Like an aerial photograph of the Colorado River in 10 years, like the only pain I feel is yours and yours and yours. Like to get a Purple Heart, you have to go to war. Collar Booth, eat your heart out. My asshole, the National Elastic, United Syrian Bath Party to Peninsula-bound bodies around the caravan desolate desert. Repeat after me. The limits of our poetry are the contours of war. We weave the carpet Khartoum, gold years Naimiri, hospital beds lie empty and junkies lay stagnant adjacent, abdomens tombed Makhdi, shine shins and past plastic Rome. Kala is me in the mirror, mouthing drug dealers and dreamt salutations of going home. Let's say it again. The limits of our wars are the conjures of poetry and we can't go back again. Martin Luther King awakes from a nightmare, looks over to Joan Baez, snoring soundly, staring to the windows and wondering, what if this was a bad idea? Claw mine, child, dig, black, gold mine, suicide, summer sky, lecherous glazed sun, fumbling tomorrow in a balaclava lace front grown green from the garbage. What grin could our liquor hold? Weightless, loved, undergown Atlantic grows, grove bone, closed-eyed grave song, and we're always depressed now. Indifference northeast, dead wrong, glares hints of yesterday's grievance, hot tinged the night. Priors sing cathedral gospel, minaret true north for the curse inherent to deserts. God is dead like Princess Diana. And old Christ strikes handshake hinterlands due south. And again, this is tomorrow, as the house is still on fire. Ohio, your dogs need you. Ohio, there is a road. a seemingly endless pile of bodies and stone. Ohio, the river spin pestilent dreams. Ohio, your dogs need you. Now more than ever, we are a grave with no body. The bounty is given with guns and similes for guns, for death, for Ohio who held no punches. I said Ohio by Ohio, and Ohio turned and said, I want everything to be okay, but I won't lie to Ohio. Outside the gasp of exasperated mothers, we receive mirth from the earth, the cranium of sunk ships kissing the mildew of oceans, the bodiless angels of murder silence the sex who lay heads under a queen's expressway murdering pain. Ohio, we need your nursing song, your cherubs crash landing in oil pits. Ohio, we stand on the shoulders of giants, but your cupboards are too high to reach. The shit-stained apartments of Bed-Stuy are blooded to our rows now. Ohio, can't you see the ditch under the awning? The first things of fall are blooming dumb frowns. The sandals of war-ravaged refugees are hung like a cross. Ohio, we need you to lift your sword of flowers, your arrow of bones. Ohio, they are killing us slowly at first, but the executioners burned the cities end to end. Ohio, I want justice, want revenge, the blood of fraternal police to see the teeth strewn across the boulevards of Atlanta like a crown, a reunion, a couplet that coats the walls of desire and fate. I want love, want free, want that freedom to be a garden, the garden of forest in the body of a bird, swallowed by a cat inside of the grave. Want the rightly guided one to show me that the trauma of war is actually an amulet. We taste the afterlife of plants, after all. Ohio, your dogs need you on the dark days, the weeks without end to bear witness. Ohio, we need you to sing like there are no tongues. Ohio, we need for you to touch us like a maze, to turn loose lips like a bird or a dog who is dying and never dies. Ohio, we need you at your best on the mournful journey in the abyss of joy. Ohio, like a last hope, only like laughter we need you, I swear. Ohio, you hold it all together. This is my last one. Babies are terrorists. I hope the babies win, whatever war they are so tirelessly fighting, that the tiny battalion of terrorists shit and shriek and crawl away from what we all know as the gray-green giant of adulthood. Bad relationships, fascists at your doorsteps, grocery shopping and the Pentecost. Not to mention Norway is slowly sinking. Continental philosophy, housing crisis after housing crisis, and always perpetual war. Why beset ourselves the path of the universal mystery and slave ships anyways? We could just easily scream ourselves into the warm arms of someone who loves us at our worst. Hug us back to the primordial batch of cells, fossilized redemption of the saints, nothingness that unites us all, raising the birthright of home. Thank you.
What a great reading. Amazing, thank you. Great to be at the launch for the wonderful magazine. Thank you, Hauser Wirth. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to read a paragraph from a hybrid memoir, and it's, let's see where we are. Frank O'Hara's just died. Frank O'Hara's tragic death in 1966 at age 40 stunned the art world and much of the poetry world. The New York School was grieving. He was a planet, magnetic, stimulating. We were planets, too. He was still a young poet, although I'd only just met him. I'd felt his transmission and energy charge, his permission to have direct experience in and with art, with poetry, with people. He suggested I come and work as a volunteer intern at MoMA. I needed a paying job, but his attention was a salient marker in my life. So we felt that his death sort of went into all of us and we could launch the poetry project in a different way. How to appropriately honor and describe the countless events, readings, performances, first encounters with some of the most controversial and outrageous thinkers and writers of any time. New Year marathons, memorial readings, collaborations, benefits, all-night planning sessions, fundraisers, magazine collations that were to take place under the protective wing of St. Mark's Church. How to record the imprint in heart and mind stream of language, sheer sound and beauty of vocables as they resounded recounted ear to ear, how to tell here the sweetness of Charles Reznikoff, the trajectory of his work, unique, modest, tough, how to capture the menacing hilarity of Gregory Corso streaking at a Michael McClure reading, the symbolic assassination of Kenneth Koch with blank pistol during the period of Columbia University insurrection, where he was viewed as establishment hierarchy by poetic anarchists who stormed up the aisle in Marxist raincoats, Denise Levertov's sharp political concern during the Vietnam War, yearning and impassioned rage in her voice, clear as a bell, Ken Kesey making the audience stand and really breathe, the rafters shaking with hyperventilation. John Wiener's fragile and dreamy movie star reading, one pant leg rolled up, gold lame scarf around his head. Amity Baraka hammering on content, power of his prophetic song. Burroughs' comeback to America with gravelly demonic voice from an even darker side of samsara. Yoko Ono's minute of white silence during the annual New Year's benefit reading. Barbara Guest, elegant, brave, and lucid after a serious concussion, light streaming in the church's stained glass windows, the morning we began the all-day, all-night Gertrude Stein marathon. Some of the story will never be told, held in magical interstices, in secret mind-computer chambers, deeper in heart's tender spaces. How many times could you fall in love? How many times could you have your heart broken? Reading after reading, event after event. I bow under the task of this description. And then, let me find this other. I'd like to read this piece called Nostalgia for Jane Freilicher, wonderful painter. To you, muse, who rocked the brains of so many of my heroes, you a hero too, for wise quip bon mot and panoramic eye, and stand up all around beauty enters the room, our own Barbara Stanwyck, glamorous, slender, assured, always gracious, if not a bit impatient. Why aren't these people wittier? Perky word monger, wonder, figure of a liberated tongue, not miss a beat, voice distinct in ear. It was your classy parties with drink and din, kinetics of best talk in town. Morris, Barbara, John, Yvonne, Alex, Joe Lasser, Keniston, Rudy, Red, Ada, Ned, Larry, Harry, Mimi, Maxine, Kenneth Smile, hubby Joe's hospitality, but always a bit of intimidation round you with your aura. Those staggeringly great poems writ in your honor, amplifying the head. You turn crazy Jane of poetic trope into upscale, glowing, modish, madcap Jane, legendary gossip's elegance, mounting around you, star La Freilicher, formidable, and by contrast, although you were never loud, the quietest paintings, as if noise forever absent or transmuted into compressed tension. An arrangement transfer was perfectly natural. John Ashbery called tentative. Could we dare say egoless in this tribute? Spaces between objects come to this window ledge, this table, corner of the world, a heart to mute a button, a hearth to mute a button on the roar. Hush here before you stroke and palette and before you can't say enough. Ingenious painter for those and continuity, but back, come back again. Can't get enough of the parties of yesteryear. Terrific Fifth Avenue's readiness, gleam of us shining too. Happy to be in your realm a moment. And Jimmy showing up in what Kenward called his lub period, with biker chains around his neck, and Joe Brainerd, lanky, innocently louche, and still people smoked. I remember being haunted indelibly. How get so lucky to be here? High tone and that inimitable talk again will never be the same in purgatorial New York, caught on time's spiral, Jane, helping many of us late helping many of us late Arrivas enter the Academy of the New York future, the Academy of the New York School future, which opened its doors to us. Thank you for doing such a great job with the poem I wrote for Pat Steer's show here at Hauser Wirth. Beautiful show of the waterfalls and the blue rivers. And the two pieces I selected are nicely reproduced. And I started seeing these things as rockets and also these strange, what are they? They're very deadly. Jellyfish. Jellyfish, thank you. They're called the box jellyfish. Anyway, really pretty. And I'd been to an aquarium in Mexico City and had seen masses of these things. And they actually had sort of imitation box jellyfish hanging around, and then these were the biggest reflection. Anyway, I'll read it from this page. Thank you. And this is called Phenomenological Undulation. Happiness is being on a beam with life, to feel the pull of life. Agnes Martin. For Pat Steer. Aperture of art, a person awakens. Heart basks in guttural energy of launch. Lunge releases your own topos, can sweep up, paint down, constant suspension, buoying up the blue, one and other one and one and one and one and one and one. Now two, where goest in a marine life, marooned life, AI of broken undulation in new civilizations tally, shock, horror, keep the fight beyond binaries, out of harm sites, out, but bless the studio where one studies phenomenal three-folding world and comes as never before onto public space. Negotiation, as the poet once said, standing before war, as in standing in front of. Stealth of life jellying in shimmer to abandon no hope. Where intentionality invokes lineage. Thoreau, I went to the woods to live deliberately. How curious, living sheaves want wheat in a rocket, seed vaults in outer space, sample of Nidarian invertebrates, as if we are sending samples of everything, of everything, of all things, one and one and one and one and one, to be born immortal to the space station. Bundles of beauty spiraling black hole universe or under dark sea primed to dusk. Wow, primed to dusk. Phosphorescent dawn, our own lost Walden. Child Roland into new age cavern comes, biophilia of making when never alone, mind ameliorating a strong song. Blake sang, entering the garden of love. I went to the garden of love and saw what I never had seen. A chapel was built in the midst where I used to play on the green, and one waits espousal of form just arrives, heralds new pantheism, composition on beam, coagulates on time, embryonic simplicity, rhythm inside, silent gesture, language pausing, stutters, syllable to syllable, turn the dial, rocky, frontal, lobe, burns, lenient, while rocket jellies suck and cradle and splash and grow string theory and sanctuary. We saw the Paleolithic in the aquarium, the loss set in and glory. Life device floating a long time, you say, somber that. Mirror that thought about such things before. Identity, recognition, a prize. What does Raoul say now? Brother, silence as he passes slowly, elder, into night. Saws away a fabric so soft you want to die in. Alchemical palette, what form are you on? Filaments of desire collides with detritus. Sweet indulgence tested on loop of time. I want to bask my form in agency of cosmos. Never hoped to matter, but warm like embrace. Not chill, lonely day and dawn of canvas canticles. Wanting tears for the time, pouring down all night. So Pat, pours her paintings. She sets her paintings up to pour and weep all night. So Pat, it's so great to see you here. Thank you again. Have a great evening. Keep it going. Thank you, Kay.
Thank you, Anne. And thanks once again to all the readers tonight. Thank you so much. It's fantastic. If you all can hang out for a photo, that would be amazing. Thanks. And now I'm going to pass the mic back to Russell. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to get a copy of Ursula on your way out and have a drink of wine. Thank you for being here.